Very good afternoon, and thanks to one and all who have made it for this webinar, which is focused on consumer goods and durables. Uh, we have titled it as Industry 4.0, Empowering the Emerging Middle Class, Igniting Growth and Employment Opportunities in the sector which we call consumer goods and durables. We are going to have a detailed discussion about how has this sector been doing, what's forthcoming for this sector, and what kind of employment opportunities that we have. All of this is brought to you and powered by GI Group India, an organization who is into human capital services business in India from the last 25 years. We celebrated our 25th year last year in 2023. Headquartered at Noida and having 9 distinctive offices across India. Pioneers in contractual staffing, permanent recruitment, RPO, and of course in terms of apprentices, identification and deployment. That's a complete cycle that we bring in human capital services to the market, enabling employability and of course employment. GI Group India, as a key global player in the HR space, believes it is our commitment to foster industry discussions and shape the future of staffing. Therefore, we are introducing an engaging webinar series wherein we are exploring emerging trends in various industries. And today, we are going to focus on consumer goods and durables. It's my pride and it's a moment of pride for the entire company and the fraternity to have eminent personalities with whom we are going to have this session. To begin with, I would like to talk about Mr. Manas Martha. Mr. Manas Martha is CHRO TTK Prestige Limited. Manas is a HR leader and with over 2.5 decades of leadership experience, which is spread across telecom, manufacturing, automobile, consumer durable sector. He has joined TTK Prestige in the year 2014. And since then, he has been anchoring HR transformation journey. Prior to this, he has served several Indian and multinational companies such as Usha, Schneider Electric, Idea Cellular, of course, known as Vodafone Idea before, Tata Motors, Tefe in HR leadership roles. Manas credits his professional success to a holistic experience and HR domain knowledge gained through working across different people, multiple scenarios, and cross-functional opportunities. Apart from this, Manas has also been somebody who has looked into centric challenges, which has helped him to define and execute innovative HR strategies and solutions. On academic front, he is a science graduate with chemistry honors and a postgraduate diploma in business management with HR as a specialization. Manas was listed among the top 100 great managers in 2022, awarded by the Economic Times in association with People Business. Also conferred with India's most influential HR leaders award by World HRD Congress in 2017 and FE Influencer of the Year by Financial Express in 2023. And that's many things. There are many things which we can talk about, Manas. Manas, it's a pleasure to have you here, and we look forward to get enlightened with your thoughts on the subject that we are going to talk about.
Thank you, Sudeep. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, sir. So next we have somebody who has been sorting complex HR solutions, and it's a privilege to have. If I could do a quiz, I could have done that, but I will straight away talk about or welcome Pallavi Poddar. She is CHRO of Finista Windows. Pallavi is one of the most sorted after and strategic HR leader. I mean, exemplary way to put it, sorted HR and strategic leader. We are going to learn a lot She says to have she says to have perfected a technique to dream of the best HR intervention and an innovative talent strategy for global business by focusing on organizational growth to drive bottom line results, working closely with the senior leaders across the businesses. Such a wonderful way to put it, and really admirable. She's an entrepreneur by heart who enjoys business partnering with high level of passion, energy, and creativity. She's a terribly optimistic person, and that's on a very positive note. Her smile says it all. She's committed to get the right talent into the organization and see them grow in as future leaders. She has put on multiple hats, enjoys multifarious tasks simultaneously from cooking to painting to speaking. Amidst all, focuses on business growth and organization development. She has worked with organizations like Schneider Electric, Ingersoll Rand, Nestle, Saint Gobain, and she holds a management degree in business administration from Symbiosis Center for Management and Human Resources Management. Pallavi, once again, welcome to this webinar. It will be a pleasure to have you, and I think across everybody would like to hear from you, your experiences and entrepreneurial journey that you have been speaking, being part of these organizations with the thinking that you have bought and executed. Okay,
Pleasure.
I take this a lot of honor and pride to talk about somebody who I've been knowing for quite some time, Mr. Janardhanan Naran Swami, CHRO, Stovecraft Limited. Thank you, sir. Thanks for being part of this. He's an HR and enterprise leader with extensive experience in designing and establishing HR systems and business transformation initiatives. A seasoned professional with demonstrated expertise in managing 3M and A transitions, including definitely managing IR issues, managing challenge, talent, and organization capability, possesses depth of understanding of the business, thereby demonstrated capability in contextualizing outcome-driven HR strategy to business needs. Being highly analytical, he has great and deeper insights for business and HR matrices, which has helped in deriving results. A business enabler who always look at what's good for enterprise at a macro level while blending micro level dynamics. It goes beyond call of duty in order to ensure businesses grow and get the support which enables in terms of higher efficiencies. He has 15 years of track record in career development, has worked with companies like Pfizer, where he has helped in ingrained values and leadership behaviors, as well as depth of business process competencies. He's a management qualified personnel from Accelerite Jamshedpur, and he has worked with companies like Eris Oaknet Healthcare Private Limited, Alcop Ingram, Cadila Pharmaceuticals, and of course, Allergan. Once again, pleasure to have you here, and we look forward to learn a lot from all of you. And we'll be with this, I think we will get the session started. Just to remind everybody that this entire webinar is a series that we are doing. It's like a caravan moving from one sector to another, and it's brought to you by the GI Group India, wherein we are pioneers in terms of contractual staffing, apprentices hiring and deployment, and search and selection RPO. To begin with, my first question to the eminent panelists, and the first question as we focus on inclusivity, diversion. Of course, I'm giving the hint. The first question is coming to you, Pallavi. What are the key reasons in the changing pattern of consumer behavior in rural India and the opportunities related to it?
So thanks, Sudeep, and pleasure to have my co-panelists Manas and Janardhanan. So lovely meeting both of you as well. Now coming to this question where you're talking about rural India. Now I understand that how overall the shape of India is growing. So it is not about that only the metros are growing substantially. You look at every single city when we are talking about is growing on a very, very rapid pace. Now, one, obviously, people do talk about that probably population is in our hand, and that is why it is helping us to kind of, because the consumption is so high that is helping us to grow from a business point of view. That is true for everybody, every place in the world. Now, I'm part of a big organization which is dealing with doors and windows. Now, traditionally, we always looked at that, doors and windows, probably what it is. I mean, we can see how the rural India is shaping up. The aspirations are growing up so much for everyone. Everybody is aspiring to have Louis Vuittons in their hand and probably Mercedes and BMWs. And that is why, if you look at the statistics right now, in terms of every single brands or luxury, the way it is growing up, and the statistics further says is that more than the urban state, it is actually the rural, or I would say the semi-urban places where the demand for luxury is growing significantly up. It is about competing with the Western world. It is about the exposure that we are getting, the education that people are getting, because obviously our exposure is very high. We can understand what is happening across the world, what are these luxury things, and everybody now aspire to have that. Second, COVID has also taught us a lot of things, because obviously people have started looking at not to save everything for the world, but to also aspire and probably live Zero Zindagi types that, right now spend and have that thing. And now, third, people have started looking at investing on themselves, on the houses, on the consumers, everything. So when I was just talking to you about that, the kind of organization I'm coming from, where you're talking about simple doors and windows, people are looking at aesthetics, people are looking at functionality, people are looking at how beautiful my house will look like, and that's where the demand is coming from, and that is a changing scenario of the rural world. I don't want to use rural anymore because there's nothing rural. Everybody is becoming, I mean, people are aspiring so much that they're moving towards the urbanization so much. So probably that's what today the world is. So yeah, I think that is what I wanted to talk about when we talk about the changing game of the rural India or the semi-urbanized India.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we'll move to Manas. Your thoughts on the same point.
Good. First of all, Sudeep, first of all, thank you and GI Group for having us here. And it's a pleasure to meet the co-panelists, Pallavi and Janardhanan. Well, I think let me introduce myself. My name is Manas, as you have already given a big introduction, but which company I represent, actually, let me just give you a brief sense. So I represent a company called TTK Prestige Limited, which is Prestige is part of the TTK group. We have nothing to do with the builders Prestige, because a lot of people get confused. So let me tell you, we are in the consumer durable space, one of the leading organizations in the consumer durable space in India. In terms of the small domestic appliances, we are by far the market leaders. Well, now coming back to the topic, I think Pallavi has touched upon, but let me just expand a little further. So if you look at the consumer durable sector in India today, and I think that's what is the topic all about, and what are the employment opportunities in consumer durable sector, how the market is evolving in consumer durables, etc. And then therefore, what are the potential opportunities for employees and employers? That's the broad context which I understood from the topic, Sudeep. So, if you look at the specific question which you asked me, about the rural being the key driver of growth. Actually, the growth is happening across. It's not really constrained to the segment of rural, but rural is becoming the key driver of growth. If you look at the leading consumer durable players, the rural market actually constitutes about what, 15, 20%, 25% of the total sales. Whereas the similar retail or consumer oriented industries, if you look at FMCG or automobile, the rural segment constitute about 40 to 55% of their total sales. Whereas in consumer durables, it's about 15 to 25%. So there is still a gap of around 15 to 20% that we need to cover. And as Pallavi touched upon, the key demand drivers for rural growth are course, the robust harvesting process. We hopefully we will have a good monsoon over the next couple of 2-3 years. And of course, the third element is the government legislation. The government talks about doubling the farm income in next 3 to 5 years. There are a lot of production linked incentives, PLIs, as we speak for the electronics. And, as it was spoken about an aspirational middle class. So if you look at the rural consumer has actually evolved over the years. Their lifestyle has changed over the years or is evolving. So today, for that's a huge space for the consumer durable sector to actually be happy about, or start investing. Uh, I was just going through a research some time back, and I was told that India is set to become the fifth largest consumer durables market and one of the fastest growing electronics markets in the world. Therefore, the demand is the rising incomes in both urban and rural areas. There's, as Pallavi touched upon, increasing urbanization. There is a change of lifestyle. All that is happening. But the three, four things which I touched upon, why rural consumer? Firstly, there is a population growth. If you look at the population is actually, and hence the demand in the increase in demand. The rural population today in India, we are roughly about 140 crores people officially. So it's about 70 crores people, which is about 50% of your total population, which lives in these rural areas. And more population means more demand. There is, of course, an agricultural prosperity because agriculture, while the sector is shrinking, but then there is, of course, there is an agrarian prosperity. Otherwise, we would not be growing at the rate of around 7% GDP. So there, of course, there are agricultural development. There is a lot of focus on agricultural developments. That's another area. The third is, of course, there is an interaction between the rural population and the urban population. The rural population is migrating to the urban areas and the vice versa. So, and if you look at, there is an increased communication now. There's because of there's ease of transportation for people to commute from both urban to rural and rural to urban. There is a ease of communication and telecommunication, which makes the things much easier. And of course, there is a population mobility, which we spoke about. The other aspect is in terms of the increase in the literacy rate. So if you look at the literacy rate, what we had about 10, 15 years back and what it is today, I think people are much more informed. And what the literacy has done is actually they have made people to take informed choices about what the buying patterns. They are much more knowledgeable about what kind of products which are there, what is the marketplace that they can they can actually choose the products from which they want to buy. So all these things have really improved. And I must say that there is an improvement in the rural infrastructure. Today, if you look at, I think there is a better availability of electricity. I still remember the days in which electricity used to be there for about 50% of the time. But if you go to rural India today, I think electricity is available at least about 80 to 90% of the time. There's a better education. There is an investment on health. There's transportation, etc., that we spoke about. And the other aspect that we need to look at is also government is also pumping a lot of money in terms of rural development. So not only government. I think if you look at the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank, they're pumping in billions of rupees into the rural infrastructure. So I think that's also helping. The other aspect is a lot of business tycoons in India, a lot of business houses in India, urban India today are actually investing on rural. So therefore, rural India is seeing a rapid rural development. You look at the schemes of government like Manrega or etc., or the private investments which are happening in the rural India. Of course, it is all helping in terms of putting more money into the rural consumer and increasing the purchase parity. So overall, just to summarize, there is a huge rapid socio-economic change which is happening in the rural India today, be it in terms of lifestyle, the habits, the tests, and the economic status. All these things are actually resulting a drastic change in the living pattern of the rural people, which is in a way good that it is helping in terms of enhancing the potential of consumer durable companies or cosmetic companies or the automotive companies like your two-wheelers and things like that. So, by and large, after the basic needs of food, safe, clothes, and shelter, they are now looking at a better lifestyle to live better because they have money to spend, and that's where consumer durable sector industry is playing a major role.
Fantastic, fantastic. I think great points. If I pick up what Pallavi said about the willingness to invest for self, and of course the exposure that has happened. You spoke about literacy, of course, that is there, and I think added to that is the digital literacy that has happened, or the availability. I think better logistics, better transport, all of that leads to a better exposure. I think availability, a choice, all of that, right? I think fantastic.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Janardhanan, I mean, why don't you please add on to this? I'm sure, I mean, your smile says it all. We'd like to hear from you as well.
So thank you, Sudeep, for arranging for this. Webinar. I'm also really influenced by the thoughts of Manas and Pallavi. I think Mr. Manas has been extremely comprehensive in terms of putting up this together. So I reinforce almost all his points. I will make my answers a bit crisp because in the interest of time, primarily it is aspirations. For me, it is primarily aspirations. Second aspect is, he was talking about the FMCG industry. Leader used to talk about language of AVR, availability, visibility, recommendation. So they used to talk about this in the 90s. So availability of products, visibility of products, and recommendation of products. So, and he was also talking about the contagion effect of the urban to the rural. Now, urban is not really urban. Urban itself does have, semi-urban, extended rural within the urban class population. So, if we look at the shift of the economy from 91 economic reforms to what happened in terms of job opportunities, which happened through the turn of the century to the next few years, I think aspirations have improved, job opportunities improved, disposable income was improved. Thereby, with every IT engineer, there will be at least 3 to 4 people moving to the cities. And all these people have a contagious effect of taking back all this aspiration, what is happening in the cities, to back to their hometowns. Today, you're talking about people are moving by flights to, workers from UP, Bihar, such sort of places, demoderate states are moving by flights. So there's a lot of aspiration, a lot of changes which has happened to the demographics of the country. Disposable income has influenced a lot. Availability of credit has improved a lot. E-commerce has facilitated availability and delivery of products at ease. So I think all this, and the digital literacy, these are the factors. So, Manas was typically talking about what happened to the FMCG industry possibly 2 decades back. That is what is happening to the consumer durables industry today with the same. And he was talking about statistics of 50% to 15%. So there is a lot of scope there. I think we should be able to tap that particular opportunities. Yes.
Sure. So I'm just picking up, I think, some of the thoughts which I think when we kind of first put it to the market, that we are coming up with this, a series which is going to be on the sector of consumer goods and durables, and the eminent personalities, all 3 of them, CHRO. A large set of people, of course, wants to know about jobs. So my next question is with respect to jobs, and I think this time I'm going to come to you, Manas, first. The question is, what kind of jobs can we expect in the next 5 years, which shall drive mass employment in this particular sector, which is consumer goods and durables? And believe you me, Chief, I think a very large population today wants to know what is it for me in the next 5 years from the employment perspective. So all yours, we are all listening to you, sir. Please enlighten us.
Thank you, Sudeep. Very interesting question, and I am sure that That's a very relevant question to many of the CHROs today. So, let me give you another context. How the consumer electronics and durables market is seeing a significant growth. If you look at 2021, I'm just referring back some 2-3 years statistics again. The Indian appliances and consumer electronics industry stood at about roughly around 9.84 billion US. That was in 2021. So, which was expected to grow to the figure of roughly around 21.18 billion by 2025, which is about 1.2 times, nearly about 2 times the growth, more than 2 times, nearly about 2.5 times. So when you look at this kind of a money that all the industry, the size of the industry getting enhanced to about nearly 2 times or more than 2 times in a span of 4 years. So you could look at that where the jobs will come. Of course, it will create a hell lot of jobs that I can think of. The what comes to top of my mind that when we spoke about rural market just some time back. Now, if you look at to reach to the rural market, and which as I said in the while I was talking earlier, that we were roughly around consumer durable is roughly around 20% of the rural market, which aspires to become a 45% of the rural market. To reach to that kind of a thing, you need to have distribution, rural distribution. You need to enhance the rural distribution network. That's number one. How do you enhance the rural distribution network? For that, you need to have retail channels, right? You need to have your own COCO retail channels, or you need to have your franchisee operated retail channels, or the COFO model, which is the sort of hybrid of the two. So that also creates potential entrepreneurs. When I talk about, creating jobs, I'm not talking about formal jobs. I'm talking about informal jobs as well. So you need to, as a consumer durable sector, you need to have your retail stores. You need to manage those retail stores. So you need to have stores managers. You need to have salespeople. The other thing is, consumer durable means you need to have a strong service network. You need to give the extra mile delivery to the people, because these are all electrical and electronics appliances. So this would definitely, by the virtue of the usage of those products by the consumers, it would have some fault some point of the time. You got to service them. So you got to enhance the skill set of the service technicians. You got to build an infrastructure of service technicians. So you would have a mix of people which are typically gig workers, or which are people those who are of your own, and you need to train them well. That's number two. Number three is that the moment you touch upon the rural distribution, you need to have the depots and the warehouses which will cater to those depots, to the rural markets, which means you need to have the warehouse assistants, you need to have billing people, blah blah blah. The other thing that you need to look at with the advancement of technology, and then consumer is spoiled for choice today, and I think consumer is expecting a very good consumer experience, which means what? It's a combination of, the products, the availability of the products, and also the reach of the products and choice of the products, which means you are competing at a marketplace, which your products need to be superior in terms of quality, in terms of technology. For example, let me pick up one product. I was talking the other day to someone in a fan company. Of course, we don't manufacture fans, we don't sell fans. He spoke about that rural consumer today is more keen in terms of energy efficiency. See, he wants to actually save some watts, some 50 watts or 30 watts. So therefore, he's looking at BLDC models in the fans. He's looking at how can he save energy? How can I have, typically why Maruti sold so many cars earlier? Because of the mileage factor. So the rural consumer would always be driven towards the who pays value for money. So therefore, the point is that you need to have, so BLDC fans all of a sudden in India, Sudeep, you'd be surprised to know, is exponentially increasing. There are manufacturers who are coming, and there are existing manufacturers who are investing a lot of money in the BLDC models. So typically what I'm trying to say is that, so when you look at investing on technology, that means you need to look at Industry 4.0, you need to look at smart manufacturing, you need to look at enhanced product quality. So therefore, where do you get the skilled manpower? This requires skilled manpower. More and more companies would actually invest in terms of building skilled manpower going forward. They will be investing on automating their factories. They will be investing on automating their supply chain so that the reach becomes much easier and seamless. So, you know, so it's a combination of jobs which are from manufacturing to sales to service to kind of e-commerce. E-commerce is another space. You look at the India rural consumer today, rural or urban, they want the product to be delivered their doorstep in the next 2 or 3 days. So therefore, the e-commerce companies are going to invest a lot in terms of hiring the gig workers. So that's another area which I think. So I'm looking at an exciting marketplace and exciting job opportunities going forward for the consumer durable sector. So if the sector is going to grow at about 2 times than what it was, I get a feeling that consumer durable sector will contribute significantly to the employment opportunities of the Indian population.
Okay, fantastic. I think key points, and this is for all the set of people who have registered and are listening to it, looking forward to the kind of employment opportunities. You gave a scenario. You said sales, of course. So there will be a lot of people required uh, who would be looking forward to sell these products. But at the same time, you also emphasized on the experience part, which means after sales demonstration, people who kind of come install, demonstrate, and the servicing part. And I think there, with digital intervention, there's going to be a lot many transformation that's going to happen. And I think digital literacy, the skills will become very important, right? So I'm just going to pick up something which I read while we were preparing for this series, that India's consumer goods and durables industry is undergoing modernization and technological advancements. And, as the sector embraces on smart technologies and sustainable practices, there is a need for skills, right? So because that's when it will meet the demand and etc. So my question is to you, Mr. Jananathan Narayan, that what kind of a skill set enhancement that this sector is looking forward
Yeah. I think going back to what Manas was telling about, you've got the sales, service, commercial channels, which are likely to significantly improve in the coming years. Definitely, this industry has to go toward of lines. Manufacturing has to improve. With the kind of technology adoption, you must also understand with technology adoption, I think a lot of technology jobs will get created. So it is important to drive change with existing employees, acquire fresh talent, and develop them into transforming their ways of doing business. If you like to adopt industry 4 technology, you got logistic technology, talk about distribution, you talk about manufacturing, automation, RPS, etc., etc. We need to. We believe that a lot of industrial engineers today, the engineering market is a bit subdued. I think a lot of things will open up. So reskilling our employees becomes very important factor. Reskilling in employees, driving them to adapting technology. These are some of the most important interventions we need to drive. For the existing employees, I think uh, we need to continue to drive their motivation, drive the productivity improvements, availability of scorecards, which are very important if you have to drive this productivity improvements, very important. Measure the improvements and make it available to them at real time. These are some of the factors. So technology is something which we have to develop. Technology capabilities which we have to develop. So we like to train people in technology. We like to hire fresh talent into technology. We like to implement RPA process. This is very important. On the other factor, the other skills like the soft skills, ability to manage people and technology, etc. For the leaders, the leadership capabilities will continue to be very relevant. That is my take on this.
Sure, sure. I mean, extremely well narrated, I think they need to identify the distinctive skills that is required to be put across, and identifying the right population on the other side who go through the skill enhancement exercises. That's very important. And I think while a lot of organizations are looking forward to have this skilling thing done for the organization, why is that some of them are getting it right? I think the first thing which you mentioned, that identify who and which skills. I think that's very important. Very well said. Pallavi, your inputs on this, and along with this, I would like to also hear, because you have, when I was introducing you and I read about your portfolio also, that you have always been looking forward for growth in business. And of course, we know that it only happens with the right set of people. So we spoke about the jobs and etc., which of course is, but one of the important thing is how you retain as well, because retention is probably one of the biggest buzzword in the leadership rooms and in the boardrooms of organizations, that how do you retain the best of your talent, right? So skilling and retention, with this particular thing, I would like to hear from you in an environment where you have worked in multiple organizations. What goes on in terms of framing policies, then steps to execute them, get the best of the results, plan A, plan B. If you can just enlighten us on that.
Interesting. I really like the inputs what was shared by Manas and Janal. In fact, a great learning for me also, in terms of, with so many statistics coming in, that what kind of employment is there and what kind of skills are required. See, I will not have to add anything new, because obviously then all of us, the entire HR fraternity probably will echo the same thoughts, that with the urbanization happening, with the kind of growth what India is foreseeing right now, with the reports coming, with probably the GDP moving up to 7.5% and everything growing so rapidly. In that case, when it comes to skills, obviously, almost everything I'll echo with what Janardhan has mentioned. But something I'll also talk about is change management. Probably there has to be a capability and a mindset of people to kind of really accept that how we are moving towards the new set of change and with innovation. So I think there was this article I read, actually this article I read in the morning itself. So probably there was a time when we had those players, right, that those round disc where the music was played, keeping that thing. I don't remember the name of that thing. Almost 40 years, the tradition of that phone or that instrument was there. After that, it was radio that came. Probably 15-20 years radio was there, a transistor was there. Then the Walkmans came. For 5-10 years Walkman was there. And now then those tiny thing, iPod, earpods or whatever that came, right, from Apple and all, and that was just 1-2 years, and now everything is out of fashion, nothing is available. It is only Spotify. So look at the speed of change, how it has happened in last 50 years, and probably that is how it will continue to happen, probably faster. The retention span of people have changed dramatically, from probably a 21-22 seconds to 9 seconds. When you talk about scaling part of it, one is accepting the change, two is about this retention span of people is so less now, and which includes us also. I mean, I'll not say that my retention span is very high. I mean, we all have to be very conscious to understand that, we keep talking about multitasking, but there has to be, to bring the skill of focus needs to come in now. Suddenly, when, there was a time when people used to talk about so much focus, you have to do multitasking, but now I think with this retention, we have to come back to our basics, that now we need to focus a bit more and learn how to focus on certain skills. I think that second part, I would say, on a skilling would be an additional thing. And third, to me, and I think very close to my heart, is a multi-generational diversity. You did spoke about diversity and inclusion as a women being on table. For me, more than that is multi-generation. I mean, everything will happen, women will come in workforce, everything will happen, but the generations will never go away. Generations will continue to happen. So, I mean, I probably have become now another second generation, and now my next generation have already started entering in the workforce. probably at 20 years. Yeah, I mean, exactly. A fresher now is almost 20 years less experience than me, and it's the next generation completely. So how to handle them is one thing I have to learn at now this table I'm sitting. And at the same time, when we talk about skilling, is also the same for these people, because they are not coming from need. So it is not a need-based requirement for them, but it is more about career-based requirement or more, something. So skill has to happen also. We have to build our modules, policies, trainings around these three perspectives also quite a bit. And I think that would eventually help quite a bit, because that will also touch rural, that will also touch heavy urbanization and everything, that because this is the three different sets happening everywhere. Today morning, I read one article, not really read, because I like to watch Insta, and there's this short, that the clip going on about the 5 famous or the most rich chaiwalas in the country. And then there was this one chaiwala, actually, I took my mind. So we're not talking about chayos and chai points, which are very, very professional, but this chaiwala probably has become more famous only because of using Instagram and being on social media. And probably if you look at it, this is real chaiwala, the traditional chaiwala, who's become so famous and probably has a net worth of close to 18 crore today. So, now that's where we need to really look at, how things are changing and how are we upskilling ourselves to probably match to that kind of scale of people. So that's on the skilling bit. And coming on retention, I mean, whatever I've spoken about gets translated into retention also, because these are the mindsets which I spoke about. And if I'm able to understand as an organization that this is a new mindset coming, and I drive and create my policies around that, and that has to be very, very unique. Today, I would say a lot of organizations, one size fit all to making it customized policies are garnering that kind of attentions, because people are moving towards that thing, that probably my need is different than your need, and probably let's try and make it very, very customizing, and only then the retention can work. Probably that would be, and I think that's a policy. Obviously, it's transition. So I don't want to talk about in my 20s of career what are retention steps I've taken, because maybe they're now all outdated. We all probably have to sit together and think as more new aged professionals, that what is my retention strategy, what worked probably 10 years back or 5 years back will not work now. It has to have something different. Retention bonus worked fairly well 10 years back or 5 years back. It will not, because people, I mean, as I said, are not joining for need of money. They're joining for something else. Understand that purpose for them, that what is that purpose they're joining for, and try and bring that. So it's so much going to be linked to skilling, and here, and manager will play the most important role. I mean, HR cannot play any role anymore. I mean, because I cannot understand the need of every individual. That has to be the manager to understand. And how can I upskill my manager to start thinking about that? I think that would be my biggest challenge probably. And yeah, I'll be happy to hear more from others.
I think very interesting insights. Career as an option, need as an option. I think identification of that. You mentioned what you actually said is HR department is nothing but probably a shop, and all employees working in that organization have to be looked as a customer, because at the end of the day, within that organization, HR department is actually looking at all other employees as a customer, and then looking at it that what they actually look for. I mean, phenomenal. I mean, extremely well put. And that opens up a new angle about the fact that some of them look at it as a career option, a job as a career option, and some of them look at it as a need option. And as probably the person handling those customers need to know who falls into which bucket, right? And I think from there it starts on. Great. I think if you see from that perspective, it also is important that we are talking about transformation, we are talking about the transitions and etc. It's also important is the wind at the back, which means the government initiatives. And I'm going to come to you, Manas, now, that what are the initiatives taken to attract and retain talent in this sector, predominantly in the last 2-3 years, and which has resulted in higher employability?
Well,
I
frankly
know,
speaking,
but yeah, because that's what we
my
would like to know. And I know large population today who have registered wants to know that from the employability perspective, to the policies, experiences, and implemented ones, which has given results. So all your Manas will like to hear from.
see, I wish always government can always do more, Sudeep. You know, but having said that, um, I think government has. There have been a lot of initiatives. You talk about Skill India. You talk about programs like these. Now government has made it a mandate to have 15% of your total workforce in the factories need to be NAPs. So I think up to 15%, up to 15%, sorry. So, these are the things which are definitely helping in terms of building a lot of informal jobs, like in the market. See, though, before coming to specific to your question, Sudeep, let me just take an example of where the industry is heading in terms of employment. I spoke about what are the areas companies will be investing in terms of employment opportunities. I feel we are going to have more and more informal gig-based employee workforce mix going forward than a formal employment opportunity or employment work kind of formal employees kind of a workforce mix. Why I say so is because of the kind of people that you will hire going forward is going to be typically people like what companies like e-commerce companies like Amazon or Flipkart, etc. do. So you're going to hire people in your service technicians, you're going to hire people, your store assistants, stores managers, you're going to hire people on e-commerce executives, logistics, warehouses. So these set of people, that means you're going to invest a lot on the people that we are hiring on the gig part of it. Now, typically, which Pallavi touched upon earlier on the retention part. So these people, the loyalty is something which won't come naturally to them. So you got to invest a lot on their culture, on the incentivizing these people, reskilling them, making them actually get some rewards and recognition so that they feel belonged at the workplace. So that's on the retention part. Now coming to the government schemes, like specifically government, whatever little I understand, I think, or whatever little that we have capitalized upon so far in my company is in terms of these Skill India or the NAP schemes that we have. These are the areas which I think we can certainly. Government has good schemes, like for example, government incentivizes the industry to have more and more NAPs, to have more and more gig players, etc., gig employees, etc. So I think, well, as I said, as I started, government can always do more, but these teams, I think many organizations don't actually they are not fully leveraged upon. So going forward, my view is that we must leverage upon this. In fact, we are thinking of, tying up with universities across India in terms of to have a constant pool of talent coming into our uh, gig workforce, where typically for our manufacturing setups or for our service technicians, so that there's a constant source of pulling in talent. So, we can always have a tie-up with the government schemes like Skill India, etc., or the universities to have this talent pool coming in, because upskilling and reskilling is a huge challenge. Getting the right skilled manpower to manage your factories or to manage your workforce is a huge challenge today. So I think these kind of initiatives will help, is what my feel. Broadly, let me hear from others on this subject more.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Mr. Janardhanan, I think I'll bring a little bit of more flavor into this. Uh, it is said that 30% of the Indian total market is still unorganized. It's only the 70% play that's happening, right? So that's one side. On the other side, you also have artificial intelligence and automation, which is kind of coming and trying to create a lot of, uh, you know, automation in the supply chain, automation in terms of getting the product to the customers. Now, with all this phenomenon happening, there is a lot of future jobs that's going to come up, which we don't see today. What would be these kind of new jobs which we don't see today? If you can throw some light on them, that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, so coming back, I would like to reinforce some of the points which Manas as well as Pallavi talking about retention. It's important. Now, coming back, partnering with universities, uh, skilling them, make them employable, these are very important in terms of getting talent. The more important is for companies to anticipate. Uh, am I audible?
Yes,
You.
yes.
Yeah. So it is basically to anticipate the kind of changes which is happening in the manufacturing sector, in the consumer sector, so unorganized to organized. As we transition from here, I think a lot of skill sets has to be developed. Now, expecting people to be hired and then transforming them into skill set is not going to happen. So I think industry has to participate very closely with the universities and with the Skill India initiative and possibly groom talent and make them employment ready. So that even on the company side, if you're investing on the other side, for the company, the full-time equivalent for a person, new person coming to the job and settling down becomes substantially reduced. Productivity thereby improves. Now, when you are investing such a talent, the instilling that purpose in the employee, the prospective employee improves, alignment improves. These are some of the factors. So I think today the one is bringing talent, the other one is also retaining talent. Now, many companies, as Vallavi rightly put it, that the HR, if it is invisible, I mean, then the organization is much more successful. So these line managers, the Ulrich also talks about the HR as a staff function, line responsibility, going back to those particular definitions. So basically, HR has to do a lot of this one, has to engage with the business, has to engage with technology, has to engage with the senior leadership team in terms of understanding as to what sort of changes are happening in the landscape for the company, curate the company. So you need to context and curate what is applicable to one company may not be applicable to another one. So you need to curate your roadmap and then possibly hire talent, incubate them, develop them, and that is what my take is on this particular subject.
Fantastic. I think it's important. Mr. Manas spoke about apprentices. You spoke about, I think, the talent management piece, uh, kind of connecting dots with respect to ownership in getting these folks at an early age so that you can train them basically. Uh, and fantastic inputs. And I'm sure all of us have really been enlightened with that. Just to bring you, let all others know that this web series this webinar series that we are talking about, which is transformation in distinctive sectors, is an initiative which is taken up by GI Group India, an organization who is into human capital services. We are into RPO, we do permanent recruitment, and of course, staffing, which is contractual staffing, deployment of apprentices, as Manas was talking about under the NAP scheme. And we keep doing this. We did a series in December, which was predominantly on the agricultural sector. Today we are doing on consumer goods and durables, and we definitely will be picking up distinctive industries and doing that. The focus is change lives, more than work, and what we do is enhancement of employability. The last question before we kind of pick up some of the questions or we sign off is on learning and development. Gentlemen and lady, this is, if it would be extremely it would not be wise on my part to leave you people on the learning and development part, because that's where you people play a great role in your respective organizations. So my question is going to, of course, go to Pallavi, that what distinctive L&D initiatives you have seen organization in this space taken in the last, let's say, a couple of years, or probably in the last 5 years, which definitely are unique ones from the employment engagement perspective. employment, employment productivity perspective, all of that. The L&D initiatives.
Okay, sorry, I was on mute.
Sure.
So some of the initiatives that I have taken, I heard from one of the companies where they were talking more in terms of about making a customized plan. So we all hear about IDPs, we all hear about everything, but it was a very customized career plan for every individual. Now that is something I really heard about, and the way they're tracking it, the way they are ensuring that a person is moving up the ladder. Because obviously learning and training and development has to be in the hand of an employee, or in the hand of a person only. I mean, how many trainings I can do it is of no use unless the person is ready to apply it. And that was something I really found very interesting. The way they've made the tool to kind of track it in a way how employees been applying the initiatives, and then probably that was linked very well to the growth of the person. So I think that was one part. Apart from that, I mean, there's so many initiatives you can talk about that, you're making the MDPs and LDPs more and more customized to kind of help an individual grow. The development centers, which probably are taking a lot of big shape these days in terms of assessing and probably helping individual grow. I think these are very few very known initiatives what people are doing. The other bit what I personally, and I'm quite fan of the entire thing, is those snip learnings also. That with everything what you're doing, you're learning out of something. And how within the organization you're creating that forum of maybe 1 hour, 2 hour, and how people are learning and helping the people training, instead of I training or the L&D team training or the consultants training, but rather the teams training on what topic they are very good at. So maybe these are few things I can really talk about looking at the time. Would like to hear on this some new initiatives from other co-panelists, so that we also get some ideas.
I think, of course, we have another 2 to 3 minutes, and I'm sure both of you gentlemen have, your next assignments to pick up. Of course, I'm going to come to both of you quickly. What do you think you would like to add on this topic of initiatives? Janardhanan, and followed by that to Mr. Manas.
Yeah, so I think Pallavi was talking very clearly now in terms of defining career ladders for people. That becomes very important. Developing aspirations being important. For me, if I'm to put some motivational principle in employee engagement, I think the Victor Groom's principle goes a long way, because in terms of balance, instrumentality, and expectancy, these are very important factors. Unless you bring that relevance and the context to the person, the person is not motivated. So today, when you're talking about, it's important not to take one size fits all approach. It is important to curate. It is important to possibly, there are a lot of technology applications which are available. There are nudging applications which are available. Those nudging applications can help the person learn and experience through the job. The inputs can be standardized so that the coaching does not change from one manager to another manager. So you can standardize the capabilities to a certain extent, while also differentiate the learning inputs. In the positive time, I would request Manas to take it up.
Thanks, Janardhan. So I think, I always look at learning as an investment. Okay. And if learning as an investment doesn't have an ROI, it doesn't have any meaning, frankly. So therefore, I think your learning strategy always has to work in cohesiveness with your total business strategy or the people strategy that you have. So what I look at in the paucity of time, 2-3 things I'll highlight. Number one, I think you need to broad base your learning programs to actually reach to each and everyone in the company, starting from your guy who's working in the shop floor to all the way level to the leadership. So I think that's one area, broad basing the learning programs, wherein different customized, curated learning programs, which need to be tailor-made and designed and customized for each cohort of the employees. That's an important element in your learning strategy. The other thing that which we focus on at TTK Prestige is also in terms of, looking at our aspirations for future. What are the things that we are investing on? So, for example, Janardhan spoke about the digital literacy part. if you're not equipping your sales force, your customer service technicians on your digital literacy, and where you expect them to cater to the customer by leveraging the digital platforms like dealer management system or a Salesforce automation, or for that matter, a CRM system that you have. So digital literacy is an extremely important thing. The other aspect, when you look at for your blue collar staff, you are investing, pumping a lot of money in terms of investing on automating your factories. You're putting in Industry 4.0. You got to do a lot in terms of multi-skilling those operators, because there is a mindset issue, which I think it was been spoken earlier by the other panelists. So you got to actually, if you have got a factory which is a little legacy factory, etc., and you are pumping in investment to make it more competitive and productive, and therefore, how do you change the mindset of those blue collar workmen who has been typically working in a different environment to that of an Industry 4.0 or an automated environment? So multi-skilling of those operators is an extremely important element. And last but not the least, I'm sorry, I'm exceeding the time. The other aspect which we need to look at is in terms of how do you make your learning little interesting and fun, So in terms of today's generation, I think Pallavi spoke about the multi-generational workforce. Today's generation has an attention span is extremely limited. So you got to actually focus through the bite-sized learnings, through the e-learning platforms, which at TTK Prestige we leverage completely. So therefore, I think, the bite-sized learnings, people learn at their own pace. You cannot really push a shop floor worker for the entire day to have a learning program delivered. So you need to design those learning kiosks on your shop floor, which people go and just get trained on safety or on product build awareness or on, let's say, any other things. So it's a combination of broad basing your learning interventions. The mode of training has to be clearly customized and curated properly, which requires you, which is aligned with your business need and future aspirations. And lastly, it has to be really aligned with your business strategy. That's what I feel.
Fantastic. I think time is a constraint. I mean, such enriching thoughts, and we wish we would have more time to kind of touch upon on a lot of input, a lot of pointers, which definitely. And but yes, I think we had a 1 hour of extremely well managed discussion, and we touched upon all the aspects, starting from the element of that rural India, the transformations that has happened, the element of reforms that has taken place, the kind of jobs that's are prevailing right now, and we expect them in the future, the L&D initiatives. Thanks to all of you. With this, we come to an end of a fantastic series that we titled it as Empowering the Emerging Middle Class, Igniting Growth and Employment Opportunities in Consumer Goods and Durable Sector. Once again, thanks to all the people who registered for this series, and this we are going to, of course, put it across in social media as well, and people can definitely look into it. GI Group thanks Pallavi Poddar, CHRO Finesta Windows, Manus Martha, CHRO TTK Prestige, and Janardhanan Aran Swami, CHRO Stovecraft, for taking time out to be the eminent panelist for the day. Thanks to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sudeep.
It has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, all of us.